What up, what up, what up? What is going on, everybody? It is the Money Match Gaming Podcast. We're here to talk Ralph Breaks the Internet. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am one of your co-hosts, the Infinite, a.k.a. Lance, a.k.a. the CEO of Money Match Gaming, and my co-host over to, technically, my left in this situation. You're going to do it.
I can't see you. You're frozen on my screen. I can hear you, so I'm
okay.
like I can't tell that you're doing the thing, but I believe you are.
Yeah. Let's give it. Yeah. Okay. Son, my co-host Dan Estrata. Welcome. Dan, tell him about yourself, man.
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Dan Estrata. This is the Money Match Gaming Infinite talk show, podcast, extravaganza, Christmas special, Thanksgiving bash, event you can't miss out on. That's what this is, man. It's all of that. It's together in one. It's a combination of all the things that it can be, and it is. But yeah, so we're talking a couple things today. We got a double on the header. So essentially, if you're here live joining us, welcome to a 2-part episode. If you're on the YouTube, these will probably be split up in 2 different videos. So the first one we're talking about is Ralph Breaks the Internet. And then if you are curious on continuing, we're going to be talking about the Game Awards and our predictions for that. So, yeah.
Boom. So I'll kick it off as usual. So, Wreck-It Ralph 2, a.k.a. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Here we go, man. It's a video game bad guy, Ralph, and his fellow misfit Vanellope von Schweetz must risk it all by traveling to the World Wide Web in search of a replacement part to save Vanellope's video game, Sugar Rush. In way over their heads, Ralph and Vanellope rely on citizens of the internet, the netizens, weird way to put that, to help navigate their way, including an entrepreneur named Yes, who is the head algorithm and the heart and soul of trend-making site BuzzzTube.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
So, per normal, you can go ahead and kind of go into the actors, and then you can go ahead and get us started with your general feelings. I did it last time, so.
It's this movie is directed and written by the writer of the first one, Phil Johnston. And it's starring, I only wrote 3 people down. There are more characters, but really only 2 characters get that much screen time. So you have John C. Reilly, who plays Ralph, and you have Sarah Silverman, who plays Vanellope, and Gal Gadot, who plays Shanks, who is like the main character of the Slaughterhouse game. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of other actors and actresses in this movie. For example, all the actresses who played Disney princesses who were still alive, which I'm pretty sure is all of them, reprise their roles as their said Disney princess in a couple scenes. So that was kind of cool. Yes was played by a girl who I can't remember her name off the top of my head, so I apologize to her. And one of my favorite guys who was only in the movie for like 2 minutes, if less, actually definitely less, Jason Mantzoukas, who you see at one point asking a question to Groot. He is credited under the character Hey Nong Man, which is a reference to the Comedy Bang Bang podcast. So I thought that was really funny because I like that podcast and I like Jason Mantzoukas. So yeah, Ralph Breaks the Internet. So yeah, I guess I'll start. I enjoyed this movie, which is great because I did not enjoy the last 2 movies we saw. So I am happy again. With the movie.
I'm happy again.
This will be a much lighter episode for me, whereas the last 2 episodes was like me trying to feel like I liked it, even though I know I didn't, and then most of the time just taking a crap all over the movie. This I don't do a lot of crap taking. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a fun time. Did I think it was better than the first Wreck-It Ralph? Not quite, but it did do its job as a good sequel, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I guess that marks my little scenario. And like, I hate doing this just because like oftentimes I come off kind of doom and gloomy, and like I like the movie. All right. Let me emphasize that at the beginning. I like the movie, but like the way it ended really like shifted the way I felt about the movie in general. Like, again, this is like an open discussion. I'm going to have like a graphic build that says, hey, spoilers do happen. We are discussing the movie, probably not in full detail, but just some of the things that we liked and disliked about the movie,
right.
Which will
include... We will be talking about parts from the movie.
Right. And so, like the way it ended was just a little too somber for me. Like I thought that this movie had the ability to kind of go really deep on some really key issues with today's society and stuff. And you know me, I'm all deep. I'm that guy. And so when I saw them kind of go down that route a little bit and kind of explore that, situation, it just felt a little underwhelming for me just because of that. But I enjoyed the movie. There was a lot of things that I did like about the movie. Just that thing kind of threw me off. Like I just didn't like the way it felt at the end. The last one was like so kind of cool and like great and stuff. And like you said, I did enjoy this movie.
Think because I understand what you're saying, and I understand. Like I was reading some reviews today, and a lot of people had a problem with the third act in general. And yeah, there are people who say it did kind of have a somber ending, but I think it was because I understand why you would say it's a somber ending, but I think it's more of a progression kind of ending. It's more of Ralph realizes he was doing wrong. He wasn't being a good friend. At the end, while they're not necessarily together and there's still like a long time before maybe they'll see each other again, that he is trying his best to improve as a person. I mean, I guess he's not really a person. He's a video game character, but he's doing his best to improve and be a better friend to the people around him and not be so controlling, you know?
Right.
That's the way I kind of got it. I mean, that's the way it's going.
Yeah, I mean, like both movies have some aspects of self-growth. You know, that was like the big breakthrough in the first one. You know, Ralph learning not to be a bad guy, him learning to control his anger, you know, him learning how to be an actual friend, you know, and you know, like, and I get why they might segue into this movie the way they did, just simply because of that like basis in itself. But like, I don't know, you know, for me, you know, knowing what Vanellope was to him. You know, and like, I think it worked both ways, you know, if I'm like referencing the first movie, you know, to where they both grew a lot. The difference is she's just more adventurous than Ralph. Ralph just wants to have a good time. And she's like, nah, I want to see the world. And like, you know, I'm sure everybody has those kinds of relationships in their life. But, you know, it just like to him, she broke the mold for him. She helped him evolve on a like much deeper level, and I think that's the reason why I kind of don't like the situation, because like he was dependent because like so much of his self-worth was like based on it, and I know why that's toxic, but for her to kind of be really negligent to that idea like bothers me, and that like has more to do with me myself, so it's not like that's a bad plot point or that it's even, you know, right to begin with. It's just like, I don't know, you know, when you change my life and my life is now going on track, I can see how like a real big codependency could build in that situation. And I think if you're being a good friend, you would pay attention to those things.
Yeah, but the problem is, while yes, I understand what you're saying. Like Ralph had the dependency on Vanellope for his friendship, and yes, you like it's very toxic. However, it's selfish to hold anybody else back because you're like, well, I won't be a good person unless you're here with me. Like that's a super selfish way of looking at things. Like if that person wants to move on and better their life, it's not your judgment to tell them that they shouldn't or can't, you know? Just because maybe you need them or you feel like you need them to be the best person you can be. But that's selfishness right there, because then you're just using someone for your own personal gain and not allowing that person to live their full extent.
Right. And I'm not saying that he should have been selfish in that situation. I'm actually looking at Vanellope and going, okay, well, she could have kind of framed this in a way that would have made him understand, instead of just being like, oh, I'm just going to dip. You know, like the way that happened. And again, well, I mean, sometimes these situations become...
He also found out before he was supposed to.
True.
Like, he found out from a secret phone call is that she didn't know that she, like, answered or whatever.
Sure.
It was on mute.
But when I, you know, spend $27,000 on your well-being, and I'm like, yeah, let's meet up, and then you don't show up, I mean, like, you kind of know what kind of route that's kind of going, in a sense, to where she might have flaked in that situation, you know? And so, like, to me, you know, like, they paint it, the movie paints it like Ralph's, like, this really bad dude. Not really, you know? I mean, like...
No, I don't think he's a bad dude, but I think he's definitely being toxic.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That codependency is a little much, you know? And I would agree there, but, you know, at the same time, I'm kind of like, she could have been a better friend, too. And I just kind of don't like how lopsided it is. And, you know, again...
And that's what I think Shanks is trying to tell her, like... She also, you're right, she wasn't being the best friend, especially not by voicing her concerns to Ralph at the right time. But that's exactly what Shanks was telling her in the scene that, you know, Ralph didn't quite catch because it was muted. But she was like, hey, you gotta tell him. You can't just, yeah, he'll be mad if you never come, or, you know, you'll be mad if he doesn't let you leave, but he'll be mad if he's not ever allowed to see you again. You know, it's like there's a balance there, and I understand what you're saying, where you think that Vanellope's in the wrong, and to some extent she is, because she just kind of up and left, especially from a game she was in. She was just like, I'm not showing up to this game anymore, which is, you know, weird. don't quite understand how that works, but it's a movie, so whatever.
And then on top of it, in the first one, it was like a really big deal when somebody didn't show up, and it's not like Vanellope's not an important character of Sugar Rush, so like for her to just disappear,
people like picking, right?
I was kind of like, that's a little weird.
Who knows? Weird. Maybe that'll come into play in the next movie. I imagine they'll keep making these. Probably there's places for them to still go, I guess.
I mean, I'm hoping for it, to be honest. Like I mean, again, I really enjoyed this one. Especially I mean, I might as well go into some of like the cons. The biggest thing I loved about this movie was definitely BuzzzTube. Like that was by far my favorite part of the movie. It's just all the internet memes and stuff. Like there's just so much about that I found like really, really enjoying. Like, and it didn't even really matter which one we're talking about because I just genuinely enjoyed every video that Ralph made. Like I literally actually like laughed my ass off. I like really enjoyed the goat. I enjoyed like him doing like the reviews of different products and stuff. I liked like him doing to make
it's
like,
essentially him being a YouTube vlogger,
right? Like there's like so much about that I really, really enjoyed. But like at the same time, like that same aspect was like one of the things that I feel like really draws this movie back for me. And then like is also a real con at the same time because they had this opportunity to really explore some of the problems of the internet, whether it be the comment section, and I have like written here that like I understand why they didn't go very deep because usually these things aren't really that deep, just people hate themselves.
Well, yeah, and like you can't go full comment section in a PG movie. You can't. You cannot. The comment section is not PG 99% of the time. I've read many comments under a YouTube video, and it can get rather harsh.
Yeah.
Like, he was reading the bare minimum of these bad comments. They're like, Ralph is stupid. I'm like, oh boy, wait till you see what they say about your mother, Ralph. Even worse.
But, like, they like, barely scratched the surface. And, like, again, like, I get why. It was just, like, it's such a big problem with our community, with the internet itself, with expressing yourself on the internet, because it doesn't matter which side you're dealing with, whether it be from a political spectrum of like the right and left. You get it both ways. It doesn't matter where you lie on that spectrum. Like, just people have so much hate to share, and I'm not blaming that on the internet. It's just obviously
the internet just allows everybody to speak their mind to an audience of the rest of the world. Whereas prior to that, if you were pissed off about something or you didn't like,
it was in a
other
vacuum.
people, you could only affect the people near you. You couldn't affect the whole world's thoughts process on it,
Right. And having a list of like just how toxic, the zeitgeist is in a lot of senses is, and like having a clear like idea of what that stuff looks like is fairly disturbing. But like I just felt like they could have went a little bit deeper and they could have actually addressed the problem instead of just going, hey, look, the world has a lot of ugly in it, but think about the good that you did do. Like I enjoyed promoting your content because it had such a righteous meaning behind it. I know you're not here for the money. You're just trying to do a good thing, and you're trying to do it as honestly as you possibly can, even though, those strange pop-ups, which I also enjoyed, the banner ads in the movie, which, was like legendary. I don't know, that was so creative, like I just wasn't really expecting to go down that route. And fairly interesting,
I had a few things that I didn't like about the movie. One was the name. I think it should have been Ralph Wrecks the Internet. That's neither here nor there. The name is what it is, but it would just make more sense I understand breaks the internet is a term, but it's Wreck-It Ralph.
Did you see the trailers about it?
Yeah.
They
made a joke about it in the trailers, right? But even still, I don't care that they made that joke. The movie around Wrecks the Internet because that's what it makes more sense as. But yeah, that's like a little silly con I had. The other con I had that like everything moves a little fast in the movie. It's really hard to gauge time. Like everything just moves quick. Like the video instantly comes up and they're like, yeah, it's 13 billion views. Like that, they filmed that like 2 minutes of movie ago. How does it have that many views? Like, no, nope. I'm calling. Like, and I get it. You can't make a movie last super long, and it's supposed to take place over 3 days, and you can't have the movie last physically 3 days, so we get all the information. But still, like, everything moved really fast, and it was a really, really fast movie. But yeah, those are the only things I had for negatives that I didn't like about the movie. Do you have anything?
I mean that's kind of what I say too. It just feels like they gloss over some really huge things about like not only the topics that I already brought up, but just how fast the movie moves. But like it's okay. I guess I didn't like the virus very much. How did you feel about the virus in general? Like just how it copied, first Vanellope, and then that wasn't really a big deal, and then it copies Ralph, and then it's...
Oh, no. Copying Vanellope was a very big deal. It destroyed that game.
Well, right. But I just didn't understand why the virus scanned again, in a sense. Like, I get it from a plot perspective, just like...
So the way the virus is working is it was trying to find insecurities in the game's creation or whatever.
It's code, yeah.
Yeah. So... Vanellope was insecure of herself. So when it scanned her, initially, at first, if it scanned her one time and it said 0, it's because she was fine. And then she had that conversation with Ralph, or she remembered Ralph or something, and then it scanned her again. And it was like, oh, it's insecurity right there. Boom. And it was able to get that and copy it and, take the powers of her glitch and port it all around the game and break the game or whatever. But also the fact that she's not supposed to be there probably would have been some sort of insecurity. I don't know. I didn't quite understand the full extent of how the virus works and or the factual ness of the virus. Like I don't think that's how viruses actually work, but I don't know the full extent of it.
No, I enjoyed like the concept to a degree, and you're absolutely right on how it works. But it like when they were talking to the dude, they were basically like, "Yo, it'll find any insecurity and then replicate that." So once it started the replication process, I just don't know why it scanned again. It should have just came out the internet into the internet World Wide Web and then started perpetuating the glitch that it already had, because that's generally how viruses work. They don't necessarily, and obviously I don't make viruses. So like,
I understand what you're saying now. I didn't quite get that. Yeah, the second time it comes out, why does it scan again, Ralph?
Right.
Maybe it's because it's a bigger, and he noticed that it was a bigger insecurity. Maybe it was always scanning and noticed that it was like a higher percentage insecurity, whereas like the glitch was like I think 30-something%, and Ralph was like close to 100 or maybe 100. I don't remember.
I mean, I suppose you could say that, but like I don't know. That just seems. It seems a little too convenient for, the plot. I did enjoy how everything turned into Ralph things, though.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a cool concept.
And then
that
they
actually
turned into a giant Ralph.
Yeah, and everything kind of just broke down from that. But, again, it's such, like, and that's why I think we're struggling with the whole movie itself, is everything's just so fast, man. Mm-hmm. There's really no, like, slowdown in the movie, to where you feel like you can gain your wits of any kind. It's just...
Right.
It's just scene after scene after scene after scene after scene. And I imagine that they cut a lot for this movie just because...
Yeah, I mean, there was that whole scene in the trailer with where he's, like, feeding the bunny, like, the pancakes or whatever. That's not at all in this movie.
Right. Which I was looking for. But, yeah, like you said, it just doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know, man. And maybe, the high of the movie kind of coming down, like... Because, I don't know, like, I actually did enjoy this movie, but it does feel doom and gloom a little bit, I mean, like,
there's still some pros. I haven't gotten a chance to talk about any pros. I don't know if you have any more cons.
No, that was about it. It has everything to do with the pacing of the movie, and then what I feel like they just went to surface level with.
Gotcha. Well, some pros I have here. I thought it was still very funny. In comparison to the first one, I thought the jokes were very well told and well done. The references were good. There was a Fortnite reference, which has led to some sort of cross promotion between the two things, Fortnite and Wreck-It Ralph, where there's like they like in Fortnite they gave away a free emote that Ralph is some dance that Ralph did. I don't know, whatever. But a little cross promotion, things like that. People are saying they found Ralph in the game files too, so maybe they might do some sort of Wreck-It Ralph mode or something like that. That could be cool.
I mean, as far as it is now, I think when you go to that drive-in movie place on Fortnite, you actually do see a trailer of Wreck-It Ralph. So I don't know if they're going to go deeper with
cool.
that.
I didn't know that.
You know, because they could do some Thanos things, which I think would be awesome.
Or they could just straight up come out with like a skin or something. So yeah, I thought the movie was still very funny. I thought it was a great and important story about the toxicity of relationships and friendships. I think that's good for kids to learn, especially at a young age, with today's world, that you can be too much of a friend. You know, you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not always doing the right thing. And I think that's a good lesson to teach young kids, because there's people that are our age that don't understand friendships and how to actually maintain and keep a good friendship or a relationship, because they're way too overbearing or selfish about how they treat their friend or partner or whatever it may be. And then obviously the Disney scene was really well done. Just everything about the Disney world, whether it was the princesses, was really interesting and really, funny. You had the Stan Lee cameo, which was a nice little touching thing. Obviously R.I.P. Stan. The little questionnaire with Groot I thought was funny, and just all the other things they had going on in the Disney world I thought were pretty cool. But yeah, that's what I have. That's all I got.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the princess part too. More importantly, like when they all went to casual clothes. There's something about like that concept in general that I really, really enjoy about anything kind of cartoony. Like I just like seeing people in casual clothes. Like there's something that makes it more lively, like more real in a sense. So kind of seeing Maul that way was actually really refreshing in my mind. Just like, oh gosh, and then they kind of really did make it funny too. To where it's like, oh gosh, we could have been wearing these clothes for forever. Now we don't have to wear all these nonsensical clothes in these situations. So
only wear the dress clothes when you're playing dress up, and the rest of the time just dress casual. Be comfortable.
So. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know. Talking to you kind of really makes me feel differently about the movie a little bit, though. It doesn't feel as good as it did when I originally watched it. Like,
what do you mean?
Like, I just actually really don't have a lot to say about it. Like, I'm just kind of like, I like deep movies, and this was actually.
You're not gonna get too many deep movies with like a Disney movie like that.
I mean, you're correct. You're correct. I guess it's not my favorite movie out of the list of movies that they have made. Let me just put it that way.
That's totally fair. It's not my favorite movie either, but I still enjoyed it a lot. Like
right. It's not a classic. That's probably the best way to word it. It's a good movie. But it's Wreck-It Ralph 1 I would consider like a classic.
Whereas this one is a fun movie. It's a good time, but it's inconsequential in the greater scheme of things to some extent. But like I said, it still does have a good message for adults and for kids. So I think it is an important movie to that extent.
Indeed. Okay, so that was pretty much my closing statements. Did you have anything to directly close it out, man?
No, I was going to see if you wanted to do the scores. Is it my turn to go first, or is it your turn to go first?
I think it's my turn.
Okay.
It's my turn. So, again, I always word that, I've always said this before pretty much every grade, that mine's like 5 is middle of the road. So, if you've made it to a 5, then you've essentially got your C score, and anything below that obviously gets into a little bit more bad type of movie feeling. And I would give this movie kind of a 6.5. I started at an 8. We had the conversation. I moved down to a 7, and now I'm at like a 6.5, to where it's a good movie. You should go see it. It's enjoyable. There's a lot of cool things. But if you're looking for, the Insta classics, I don't think this is going to be one of them. But I'm glad to see the series still going on, because it's not like I didn't enjoy it. It's just that part. Yeah.
Yep. I am gonna give this movie a 4 star out of 5 and a yes recommendation of do see it. I like this movie. My rating scales are kind of weird because like if I like it, I'm like it's a 4 or a 5, or like if I don't like it, it's a 2. Like those are pretty much like the only numbers I seem to ever use. But yeah, so I say 4 out of 5. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. There's not a lot of things I didn't like about the movie. It just maybe isn't as memorable as the first one.
Right. Okay, so that does it for this portion of the podcast. I'm going to bring it down just so the videos are separate and then bring it back up. We're going to talk about the gaming awards and some of our predictions for that specific thing. So sit tight and I'll bring that back up and we'll have that conversation. See you guys in a second.